You're listening to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, episode number 91. Today, I speak with founder of Artza, Itai Schimmel. Itai was born and raised in London with a strong calling to return home to Israel. Itai moved to Jerusalem at the age of 18. Ever since, Itai has been searching for a way to provide others with a connection to the land of the Bible. And 20 months ago, he went on to found Artza, a subscription box that brings the best of the Holy Land to your doorstep. 61,000 boxes later, Artza has quickly become the fastest growing subscription box for Christians and has supported over 45 small local businesses and charities across Israel. Welcome to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, where we gain inspiration and motivation from others who share their touching stories of renewing hope and discovering purpose in any circumstance. I'm your host, Christina Reisinger, and today we will be encouraged by another tremendously inspirational topic that will embolden you to release fear, begin taking small steps forward, and move into your God-given purpose to live and serve in this life. Join me for today's story. Welcome to Faith Breathed Hope. I am your host, Christina Reisinger, and I am here with Itai from Artza. Hey, how are you doing, Itai?
I'm good. How are you doing? It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I am good, and I'm so excited to have you here today and excited about what we're going to be talking about. Can you start off by telling the audience something interesting about you?
Sure. So my name is Itai. I actually grew up in London and I moved to Israel 12 years ago. And the name Itai is actually a biblical name, and it is named after King David's general of his army. He was called Itai. And I think my parents, when they had me, they were kind of inspired by that and gave me that name.
That is neat. I didn't know that. That is cool. Yeah. So I have to look that up. And you said it's in King David. What book is that?
I have to double check what book. You put me on the spot.
But
it's the general of King David's army.
Okay, the general of King
I'll double check it. I'll get back to you.
Yeah, yep, no worries. We can all look it up. So that's very interesting to know. Thank you. So here we are today, and we're going to talk a little bit about Artza, but I'd love for you to tell the audience who you are, and like we know that you are in Israel. You've been there for 12 years, but what gave you this vision, and what kind of things in life brought you here?
Wow, good question. So I grew up in London, and I have an Israeli mother and an English father. When they met in Israel, and when they got married, they moved to London. So I grew up in a very Hebrew-speaking Israeli household. And my grandparents, they lived here in Israel. And when I was a very young kid, I came and I visited them. And I was only about 6 years old. And I remember so clearly that even then it was a very profound trip, which sounds strange for a 6-year-old, but I don't know, it kind of just very much felt like it was home for me. And I remember just flying on the way home, and even then I kind of cried. And since then I visited Israel quite a few times. And when I was a teenager, I decided that this is the place I want to move to, and the place I want to call home. There's something very special. And I think when a lot of people visit, they kind of feel that as well. So I graduated high school at 18, and then I moved here. And I was as a result of the way which I was brought up, I was very aware of the connection which people have to the land of Israel, to the land of the Bible. And especially if you don't live in Israel yourself, you still have this very strong connection, just simply because all the stories happened here in the land of Israel. Kind of everywhere you walk and everywhere you go, there's stories of the Bible happen in those exact spaces and places. So for me, I was always fascinated and interested in the idea of how can I deliver this connection for people who aren't necessarily able to live here, or even if you're not able to visit here, how can we take that connection of what it is to actually travel and be in Israel and experience it for yourself, try and package that up and deliver it to your doorstep. And that was one of the main missions which we had when we founded Artza 2 years ago.
That's awesome. I myself would love to visit Israel at some point and have really been thinking about this for several years now. But it's amazing how when you send those boxes out, we can look at things from the local artisans and kind of get a taste of what we may be finding once we get there. So I want to ask you, how do you figure out that you want a certain amount of items in your box and you decide that they are one thing versus another? How do you decide on which artisans to bring in and products that you want to put in there? I'm sure there's a lot of thinking behind that.
Yeah, that's a lot of the work. So just quickly, one of our missions is connecting people to the Holy Land and the land of the Bible and the stories of the Bible. The other mission, like you just mentioned, is supporting the local small businesses, artisans, and charities here in Israel. That's kind of what actually kick-started the business, which we started in the first month of COVID. So COVID hit, the borders were closed. All of these small businesses that rely so heavily on tourism, in particularly American tourism, they were just every other day there was another business closing down, which was really heartbreaking to see. So we thought, okay, we have something here. We want to connect people to the land. And at the same time, we want to really help these small businesses. Why don't we kind of create a business, and which is kind of how we came up with the idea of Artza, which is a subscription box, and it takes you on a journey through the land of Israel. Every 3 months, you receive a box from a different region or area in Israel, and we highlight that specific and particular place. So it's almost as if you're coming on this trip and you're stopping off at different cities, and you're kind of going, learning about the history, eating the food, seeing the holy sites, getting to speak to the locals. We try and take elements of all of those and put it into the box. So in every box, say we went to Jerusalem. So in every box, it's important that we kind of try and capture the entire essence of that city. So there's a lot of written text and kind of biblical passages as well. So you kind of understand the historical context of Jerusalem, for example, and of the city which we're highlighting in that box. And then as well as that, we want to connect you to the people that live there today and also modern day Israel. And we want to connect you to the people that created each of the products inside the box. So there's a lot of photography and written content about the people and about the history. And then we want to include a few things. The criteria is there has to be food. Food's really important. People love the food. They love the spices. They love the cuisine here. So there's always going to be some amazing treats and snacks and foods and incredible exotic Israeli spices with accompanying recipe cards, which you can cook together as a family. There's going to be elements of faith inside as well, whether that's going to be prayers or whether that's going to be hand-carved wood and olive wood ornaments, which is really important and really beautiful to have in your home. One of the other important things is there's always going to have to be something which is for children as well. We want your Artza box to be something that you can share all together and open as a family. So there's always going to be very educational games and card games which are kind of inspired by the Bible and by the history of the land of Israel, so that you can sit down together as a family and really enjoy it together. And then there's a couple of other elements. So we want to have something for the body to spoil yourself. So there's going to be handcrafted and handmade, whether it's going to be bath salts from the Dead Sea, whether it's going to be organic olive oil soap, which is pressed in the Galilee, some amazing things. And then the last thing is every box has to support at least one charity. And there's so many charity organizations across Israel which do amazing work. So we partner up with one every box, whether that's going to be children's shelters or women who've escaped abusive relationships, or whether that's going to be organizations that help young teens and young adults with Down syndrome. And they have art therapy as kind of part of their program. And they create for us beautiful products, whether it's ceramics, whether it's beaded jewelry, whether, there's a whole array of products.
I love this concept. And, I was talking to you a little bit earlier about the fact that if you guys have been listening to the show, you know that I am a homeschool mom. And so everything that has the ability to teach my children just intrigues me. And so this idea of being able to teach my kids about Israel. We already have Bible time that we do during our studies. We read the Bible, we discuss things, different places in the Bible and different events, different characters. And we even use it in other curriculum areas such as math, if you can imagine that. But I love this idea of not only knowing that we can read the word that we're supposed to understand in the Bible, but we kind of get a taste of where it was that Jesus was during his time here on earth and, how the culture is in that area now. and some of the history of that as well. So you said that there's an educational piece in each box. And so you said that it's a place where we can open it up as a family and there may be a game or something that we can talk about. Is this something that, maybe a homeschool mom could say, hey, I could really dig deep into this. I could take the products, I could do further study on the artisan themselves. We could talk about the artwork in that particular area. We can talk about the food and maybe even use it as a cooking lesson. And there you go into measurements and math and things like that. Is that something, for me, it is something that I could get excited about. What would you say to those homeschool moms out there that are looking to incorporate this in their homeschool curriculum?
For sure. Well, firstly, a large proportion of our subscribers, they are homeschool families. And we know, we love it when they send us videos of them with all of their kids at home, and either they're cooking some Israeli recipes like shakshuka or something, which is, using real Israeli spices that we include in the boxes. And a lot of the time we'll talk about the biblical origin of the certain spices that went into the blend that they're cooking. And they're kind of making these new recipes, which they've never made before. Or whether they're all sitting down and they're all playing one of the card games, which we send. Every box is going to have something which is very educational and something for the kids. So one of the ones which we had from the Galilee box was, there's this grandmother who she's an amateur photographer and she loves photography, and she's traveled all around Israel taking photos of Israel, and she wanted to do something with all these beautiful photographs she's taken. So she created this game called The Footsteps of Jesus. And what she's done is she's taken different passages from the Bible, and then she's written them, she's placed them on these beautiful cards, and then she's attached the relevant photography of the particular place where the stories happened. And then it's kind of like this card game where you have to, match up the scripture with the relevant photo and the relevant history and the places. And it's just kind of this amazing way to kind of bring the stories of the Bible to life. It's kind of really add imagery and illustration to it to make it really alive. That's just been one of them. We've had other games which are made by amazing artisans around Israel, which encourage these talking point games which you put on your dinner table, and then everyone receives a different card, and then it's kind of these trigger points to try and get you to start deep and meaningful conversation at the dining room or at your dinner table. And people really, really love this because it kind of takes the conversation, elevates it to kind of real discussion, which is also always very kid friendly. And we always include those inside the boxes. So having something which is very family oriented and something which is very shareable and educational is always kind of the forefront of what we're trying to create in every box. So for homeschool moms and for homeschool families, this is something which kind of really takes your Bible study, which you all do, and brings this other added level to it to try and kind of really bring it to life for your kids.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I mean, I love the fact that you can have meaningful conversation around the dinner table, that time where you bond with your children and your whole family is able to do that, and you're continuing to learn about God. And you can relate it to history, you can relate it to math, you can relate it to art. So one of my favorite things, we're an art family, and one of my favorite things in the box is the pieces of art that come in it. And we can learn about each of the artisans and the different places in Israel. So it's really exciting for me as a homeschool mom. For the game that you mentioned, that's one of the ones we didn't get. So I know that not everybody has received some of these things. Do you have a way for your customers to either get in touch with the artisans after the fact, or do you have boxes they can purchase, that have already gone through? How does that work if they say, hey, I didn't get that, but I really think that my family would benefit from that? How could they do that?
Yeah, sure. So that happens quite a lot, that people want to buy the previous boxes. So what we have at the moment is we have a Artza flash sales store, which we launch once a month, and it's open for 48 hours. And that's where we include products from previous boxes, so that if people want, if they want an entire box, or if they want individual items, either because they missed it or they really loved one of the products and they want to buy more of them, then we offer the opportunity to buy more of them. And those are open once a month, and you can sign up on the newsletter on our website at the bottom, and you put in your email, and then you'll receive a notification for when we're about to launch it. You'll receive a few days beforehand, and then the day beforehand, and then another email when it actually launches. and then you have the opportunity to buy more of your favorite products, more products that you missed. You can kind of we always want people to have an opportunity to buy more.
Oh yes, definitely. And I had read some reviews. People were raving about a particular coffee that you guys put out.
Yeah.
And then we didn't get that one either. So
okay. After this call, I'm gonna have to send you some of the things that you missed out on for sure, because that coffee is really, really, really good.
Yes, the reviews were fantastic. So I tell you guys, I actually am in love with the Artza boxes. You know, they're just amazing, the things that come in them, the opportunities that we have to discuss things with the kids and to use them for, you know, the special spa day or whatever, the personal stuff, but also education. So our whole family thrives on education, and the adults learn right along with the kids. So I've never been to Israel, but this is an amazing opportunity to learn about it until I am able to get there in person. So if you guys are interested, we have a code for you. You want to go ahead and share that?
Yeah, sure. So we have a 20% discount running for all of your viewers. And that's FBH20, and that's for a 20% discount on all offers across the website. So site-wide, you can put in FBH20 on the checkout page, and you'll receive a 20% discount on anything which you subscribe to.
Fantastic. And so, you know, Itai, would you like to tell anybody, is there any other place that they can find you if anybody wants to connect, or are you just, you know, was Artza the best place?
No, they're always welcome to connect with me. They can reach me via email. I try and stay off social media as much as I can. So the best place to reach me is on my email, which is Itai, ITAI, at artzabox.com. So ARTZABOX.com. And then anyone can email me, and I'll be super happy to chat, jump on a call. And one of the things which are most special for me about this is that not only am I able to provide people with a connection to Israel, to the land of the Bible, to the stories of the Bible, to the people here, but I get the opportunity to connect to people I would have never, ever in my life connected to. You know, people who are either subscribers to the books and people who we've kind of spoken to in this 2-year journey. So that's kind of the things which I love the most. So super happy if anyone drops me an email, and always happy to chat, share more, learn, listen. That'd be wonderful.
That's awesome. Yeah, we hear it's all about relationships anytime you do anything, right, anymore. And it's certainly difficult to have relationships over social media, but it's also a blessing in that we get to meet people that we would have never met before. Like here, I would have never known who you were had it not been for you know, business and social. So it is wonderful to have you here. Do you have any other encouragement that you want to share with our listeners, or even a prayer, anything that you want to add in?
For me, the encouragement, well, firstly, Israel has had a couple of rough days in the past. Over the past 5 days, there's been a lot of missiles which have been shot over from the Islamic Jihad in Gaza. So one of the things which have been really overwhelming for me is we have received, or Artza and myself have received, thousands of messages and emails and comments on our social media, just saying that people are praying for the safety of Israel and checking in on how the team is. And I found that very overwhelming in a very good way, in a very heartwarming way. So for me, I think what I want to take away from that is just the encouragement is just to be aware of people you're very close to and even not so close to, and just to kind of check in always, just to see how they're doing, and just tell someone you're thinking of them, and just you have them in your prayers, can make a world of difference for that person, because you don't know what people are going through. And it's just always being very aware of others, and just dropping in just one word or one sentence just to be like, hey, how you doing? Thinking of you, can just be something very powerful and very moving, and takes minimal effort on kind of your side as well. So that's, if I have to give some encouragement, that's definitely something I encourage greatly.
Right. And, you know, I 100% agree. You know, we have sometimes where we have somebody on our heart and we don't know why. And so we reach out to them. And I believe that's the Holy Spirit telling us that, hey, you need to check on this person. But yes, as long as we're cognizant of the fact that we're not the only people in this world, we all go through a lot of things in life, and we tend to focus on what's going on in our own lives. But to be able to step outside of that for a moment and think about other people and just reach out and share your support and your kind words and prayers are definitely needed for people. And it can, like you said, it can make a world of difference in their lives. So we will definitely be praying for Israel. So those of you out there, please do that. Not just because of what's going on right now, but just be in constant prayer for Israel right now. And I'd like to also ask you to be in prayer for Artza and this company that is trying to connect you so that they continue to have the means to do so, and the connections as well. So thank you so much, Itai. We really appreciate you being here on Faith Breathed Hope. And for you guys out there, continue to be blessed and bless others, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for joining us on Faith Breathed Hope, where you gain inspiration and motivation to renew hope and discover purpose in any circumstance. Please like and share this podcast and give us a review on iTunes. Be blessed.